special guests, and the story they're about to share is the real reason why we're all here tonight. Mark and Kaylee Santishin are part of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation family. Over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Mark. He's a man full of humility. He's got a wicked good sense of humor. He's quick-witted, but above all else, he puts his family first. Mark, you raise the bar for every father in this room, and I'm proud to call you a friend. Earlier this evening, I was lucky enough to meet his wonderful wife, Kaylee, who I'm already beginning to like a little bit more than Mark. It's my honor to introduce both. Everyone, please welcome to the stage both Mark and Kaylee.
You guys are gonna crush it.
Yeah, no, just show me.
Thank you, Justin. So, my name is Mark Santishin. This is my lovely wife, Kaylee, accompanying me on stage. We are the proud parents of 3 beautiful girls, 2 of which were born with cystic fibrosis. Much to my wife's chagrin right now, I would be remiss if I didn't tell at least one dad joke. It is seasonally apropos, so why do scarecrows always get promoted? Because they're outstanding in their field. So our story is a bit of a harrowing one. Cystic fibrosis has profoundly changed our lives. It provides daily physical challenges for our twin daughters, and it's a constant source of anxiety for us as parents. It's also the looming uncertainty for what's coming next. But we have no choice. We won't let it beat us. We found out we were pregnant during the pandemic, and we were delighted, petrified, excited, and worried, all the appropriate emotions. And from then on, we seemed to face adversity at every turn. My wife had to go to OB appointments due to pandemic restrictions, and I attended via FaceTime. And I remember I almost dropped the phone when the doctor said, "Oh wait, there's 2 in there." Oh God. Now it's twice the anxiety, twice the worry, twice the excitement. Everything would be doubled. I was really impressed with how well Kaylee handled the pregnancy. She carried the twins so well. It looked like you could pop her with a pin by the end, but she was a champ. At 5 weeks premature, our OB saw something abnormal and sent us right over to the hospital for an emergency C-section. A few hours later, we welcomed Lucia Victoria and Palmer Joan to the world. It was all so strange for us, though. We saw our daughters' faces, beautiful and smiling, for all of 60 seconds until they whisked them away to the NICU for lung development. The next 48 hours went from bad to worse, as our girls had no bowel movements. Their vitals worsened, and their lives hung in the balance. We were told that they would be life-flighted to Children's Hospital Pittsburgh. My wife and I watched helplessly and in horror as our precious little miracles were strapped to a transport board and wheeled away and loaded onto helicopters. We were both in shock and on the verge of a breakdown, and we didn't even have the luxury of clinging to each other because we knew our family would have to be divided. Kaylee wasn't able to travel after her surgery, so she would remain in the hospital, and I would be getting into a car and driving to Pittsburgh to be with our children. Our family was completely isolated, and divided in the worst way possible. I remember as I was driving to Pittsburgh, I was wondering if our babies were still alive, and also worrying about my wife, a new mother, separated from her children, and the mental anguish she would endure with no one to lean on. When I got to the hospital, I learned that the twins had life-saving surgeries and they were stable. Our prayers were answered. I was so happy and relieved as the surgeon explained that the twins had meconium ileus, which is when the stool hardens and obstructs the bowel. They told me that most likely the twins had cystic fibrosis, but in the moment, I was so thankful that they were alive that I didn't even process the information. By the next evening, Kaylee was reunited with our family. It was joyous and despairing at the same time. Our little babies were connected to so many tubes and lines, it didn't look real. We were thinking, how could this be? How could this be happening to us? But we had little time to ponder it all, as we would quickly be thrown into the fire. We found out that we would be in the NICU for months, 104 days to be exact. So we started consuming knowledge. What is CF? How does this affect our children? What can we do to help them? We would learn about the digestive problems that they would have and what creon was, a life-saving digestive enzyme that allows them to absorb fat and protein because their little bodies can't do it. We would learn about their chest physical therapy that they would require multiple times a day in half-hour segments to keep their airways clean. We would literally need to beat on their little chests and back with a rubber cup. We learned how vaporized saline was a great therapy for them and how to use a nebulizer to deliver it to their lungs. As we learned more about this disease, it seemed like the blows just kept coming. We learned how rare our twins really were and what that would mean for us. Our twins are rare in so many ways. Our twins are identical, which happens only 33% of the time, as the majority of twins are fraternal. My wife, she's an identical twin as well. And the odds of an identical twin producing identical twins are a 1 in 65,000 chance occurrence, which blew my mind. But that's not where their rarity stopped, unfortunately. See, 90% of all cystic fibrosis cases have the common type. The other 10% make up the rare variants. Your type comes from the combination of mutations you get from your parents. Kaylee and I are both carriers for CF. We each have one gene mutation that we can pass on to our children 25% of the time. There are nearly 10 million CF carriers in the United States, and we soon found out that Kaylee and I have very rare mutations. Out of the 10 million carriers, only 3,000 had the type that my wife had. And worse yet, only 300 have the type that I have. So the combination of these rare types given to our girls put them in an ultra-rare category. Out of the 40,000 people with cystic fibrosis in the United States, there are only 10 others like our daughters. This was, of course, devastating news for my wife and I, because we knew our children would not benefit from the modulator medicines that work for 70% of the CF community. These modulator medicines are an absolute game changer in the CF community. They are skyrocketing the health and life expectancy of children with CF. Her and I felt helpless and heartbroken that our children seemed to be left behind. Luckily, our aunt reached out to the CF Foundation in Pittsburgh. She explained what we were dealing with, and the foundation reached out to us. We began to see how many people were dedicating their lives to CF. We began to feel the support of the CF community as the foundation put us in touch with resources to help us both emotionally and financially. They sent care packages to the girls when they were admitted in the hospital to brighten their day. They got our family involved in fundraising for cystic fibrosis so that we could actively affect change. But the most important thing that they gave us was hope. Hope is such a powerful thing in our lives. It's the driving force. My grandmother always said, when the lights go out, you have two options. You can curse the darkness, or you can light a candle. As my wife and I gazed out into this room this evening, all we see are candles, beacons of light, of hope. hope for a modulator medicine, hope for a breakthrough, hope one day for a cure. It's overwhelming for us to see this many people dedicated to our cause. We are so blessed that people like you exist. We call you people T3s, or triple threats, because you're willing to give your three most precious commodities to this cause: your time, your talent, and your treasure. It's your time, talent, and treasure that will affect change in Palmer and Lucia's life. We are beyond grateful, and we hope that God blesses you and your families for the kindness and generosity that you've shown to this worthy cause. On behalf of our daughters, Palmer and Lucia, thank you, and God bless you.